Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's recording for Monday, the 28th of November, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar fell away on Friday, so we're back below the cloud here, and that's continued on this morning. We are still holding this $100 level, and it's very bullish on the medium-term charts and the long-term charts. But we are just seeing a bit of a pullback at the moment. No clear downsides, but we are just in a very short-term bearish phase. We're pulling back, so this week we might just see the dollar underperforming compared to recent weeks. But for the moment, we need to wait for back above the cloud to see that dollar strength kicking back in. But the medium and long-term trends are clearly bullish, and the reverse is true for the euro. Euro is bearish in the medium long term below the clouds here with downside targets, but we are seeing a recovery in the euro versus the dollar as we'd expect. Again, no clear upside targets. We still have these targets to 101 and 104 in the short term. So euro recovering a bit just to start the week. And the picture is much the same with the Japanese yen. We're seeing here we're not quite through on the lagging line, but we are on the price. We are still just in bullish because the lagging line isn't quite below. Notice how on the weekly chart we are just experiencing some resistance with the price at around these levels. And because it's the Japanese yen, you can bet a lot of Japanese traders are watching these levels quite keenly. If we look at the sterling chart, sterling against the dollar, also just experiencing that re-rating last week as well. We do have upside target of 128.50 activated here, so we are seeing sterling just showing some short-term strength, but long and medium-term charts still pretty bearish. And we look at the euro sterling exchange rate, we see sterling just still having the slight upper hand here, 117. We were as low as 110 at just over a month ago, so we are seeing a re-rating going on with sterling as well. More euro weakness than sterling. And we look at the Swiss franc, we see the same thing as well. So here we see the Swiss franc is above on the cloud, and so in the short term we're just seeing that strength kicking in here. If we look at the US stock markets, we start with the S&P 500. Friday was a fairly quiet day after Thanksgiving, but we were up, and we're now at 2213, clearly through this 2200 level. This market is looking pretty bullish. No matter how you look at it, the short term is bullish, the medium term is bullish, and the long term is bullish, and lots of upside targets to play for now. So really looks like the US market is getting set to run. The Nasdaq isn't quite hitting new highs at the same level, but it is still bullish on all three charts now. So market really set to run. Dow continues to make new all-time highs. That's of course great for the market. If we look at the Russell 2000 index, much the same thing. Really has rocketed since the election in the US, and we're seeing big moves on US smaller companies. Futures down slightly today, so we might just see the US market open down a little bit at the opening. If we look at the FTSE, down almost 1% this morning, really teetering on this in this cloud of just this 6750, 6850 range. This 100-point range is really hanging over FTSE at the moment. Just produced a new downside target. So we are just seeing a more mixed picture than we are in the US. If we look at the FTSE 250 index, that's below the cloud as well, starting to look a little bit more bearish short term, but long and medium term quite bullish. And look at the DAX. The DAX is again breaking down this morning, setting some new downside targets, 1 and 2%. Bullish in the medium term, but long term just still hasn't quite got above the cloud, so we're not we just don't have that clear bullish picture that we have in US markets. The Nikkei is still looking pretty bullish in the medium term, bullish in the short term targets to play for, not quite through on the weekly at the moment, but it looks like it will wander through, turning that market bullish. When we look at the Chinese market, looking bullish in the short and medium term, still bearish long term, but really starting to make a play for recovery here. And the same with the Hang Seng. It's not quite bullish in the long term, but bullish in the short and medium term. And if we look at the Sensex, just starting to recover off the bottom after a pretty torrid few weeks, but still bearish below the cloud here. If we look at the Australian market, just starting to wander through on the weekly cloud, through on the daily, and bullish on the 60 minutes. So we are seeing the Australian market just looking a bit more and more better. If we look at Brent, back below the cloud on the short-term chart, just really messing around with the cloud and the lagging line here on the medium-term chart, and still bearish on the long term. So Brent is bearish at the moment on the short-term time frame, and WTI much the same picture. No clear downside targets on the short-term charts, so hard to call this one. Keep an eye on the 1-minute charts. US nat gas has really made a big move in the last week, back convincingly above the $3. This is looking more and more like it found some support here, and it's running again. Running through on the weekly cloud now, so that's bullish, bullish, bullish. So bullish on all time frames. We do have a target of 326 with 317.5 at the moment, so there's about 3% upside to play for. So it looks like nat gas might have a better week. Now, if we take a look at soybeans, really rocketing in the short term, through on the daily cloud in the medium term, and recovering off the weekly. So we are just seeing that. No clear short-term upside targets though. So it is bullish, but hard to see where we go next. Coffee, of course, had a great run in the last few months, but has really pulled back quite strongly, pulling back into the cloud here. Bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily, but still bearish on the 60-minute, with downside targets as much as 4 and 7%. So really quite interesting there. If we look at gold, gold just starting to creep through the cloud here. We might see a recovery back to the above 1200, 1215. That's 1.8% upside. We are finding support here on the long-term chart at the moment. But we are still bearish in the medium term, so we need to see gold really running and making new highs. Silver, much the same picture, bullish, actually through on the cloud on the short term, so that's bullish. We do have an upside target of 3%, quite a good lead indicator for gold and precious metals. Watch silver, and we are just bearish below on the medium term, but still bullish on the short long term. So silver is making a recovery, and we do have an upside target to 1724, which is about 3%. Copper has really run of late, and we still have more upside to play for. We are really just hitting the targets here, but really big targets in the medium term has really run. So copper has been a really bullish story. Looking at US 10-year Treasury, we did get up as high as 2.4% around Thanksgiving. We're back to 2.3, but that is really the move through on the weekly, and the daily is bullish, so US interest rates still looking pretty good. Last of all, a look at some bellwethers, tech stocks. Apple staging some recovery, no clear upside targets here. Google also just staging a recovery through, but again, no clear upside targets. Tech stocks just not giving us that recovery that we're seeing in the broader based S&P and Nasdaq at the moment. And the Russell 2000 at the moment. But we are just starting to see these stocks wandering through the cloud. Amazon looking better as well. Facebook recovering off those lows, back above the cloud, but no short-term clear targets to play for here. Microsoft making multi-year highs, bullish above the cloud on all three positions. We do have still quite good upside to play for here. So that's really key. The big story this week is dollars pulling back, US stock markets looking set to run. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.